Hi guys, Bolts96 but the O is a 0, and in today's video we are taking it back to a grading tier list, and in that tier list we are looking at every single Premier League team's breakout star of the season. Some have maybe broke out a little bit more than others, but if you want to find out who I think your team's breakout star is, you're going to have to stick around and find out. Arsenal, Jakub Kiwior, B. Starting this grading off with Arsenal's versatile defender from Poland, Jakub Kiwior has definitely had the most breakout season of any player within the Arsenal squad this season, coming into the team at multiple points throughout the season, and particularly during that period where Arsenal suffered a couple of injuries at the back. Kiwior filled in and did his part for the team to keep them from slipping away from the fight for the title. He had made a few appearances last season, but he has more than tripled the amount of matches that he is featured in across all competitions, and he has played comfortably more than double the amount of minutes in the Premier League than he did last season. To accomplish that in a potential title-winning defence with the likes of Gabriel and Saliba in the team is frigging really good going, even when considering the injury cover duties that he has performed this season. A good player who earned some recognition for his breakout status earlier this year with a Future Stars card on EAFC, he has also earned a higher grading within this list here. Aston Villa, Morgan Rogers, D. There are a few different options for Aston Villa when looking at potential breakout stars with the likes of Jean Duran and Tim Arogabanam, but the former featured a decent amount the season before, and I did feel like he might have stepped up more than he actually has this season, and the latter hasn't impressed quite as much as Morgan Rogers. A young local lad who has actually been here, there and everywhere in his young career, starting at West Brom, then to Manchester City, Lincoln, Bournemouth, Middlesbrough, and finally finding his way back to the Midlands with Aston Villa this season. Despite Aston Villa's brilliant season and the abundance of talent in the attacking positions, the speedy wingers managed to actually bag a few games for the team. 13 matches across all competitions, with 9 of those being in the league, where he has also managed to bag a couple of goals and an assist to boot. From those 30 matches, he has been out on the pitch for 790 of the available 1,170 minutes, which is quite a decent amount really. However, across the whole course of the season and against the majority of this list, we just have to see more of Rodgers in the coming years if he is going to become a household name within the Villa setup. If he starts to play more and at the level he has shown when given the opportunity this season, he could easily rise up this grading, but for now, I'm keeping him in D. Just. Bournemouth, Ilya Zabaniyi, B. Moving on to Bournemouth now, and one of the more expensive players within this list, Zabaniyi has been a standout within the Bournemouth squad this season. He may have cost a decent sum of money for Bournemouth at £20 million, which in most instances I would use as a reason not to pick a player for this list, but I think it is fair to say that Zabaniyi has outperformed what anyone expected of him and has really, well, broke out, having played every single minute of Premier League football this season and even getting a goal under his belt along the way. Zabaniyi has been an ever-present within a team who has surprised a lot of people this season with just how well they have done. The majority, me included, expected Bournemouth to have a struggling season after the controversy of getting rid of Gary O'Neill after his managerial heroics last campaign, but instead they find themselves in 13th place, 17 points above the relegation zone, still with 5 games left to play. A dominant force with a very bright future. He just misses out on my top ranking. Brentford, Yegor Yarmolenko, D. A few good young players pack out the Brentford squad, and a few of those could have been considered as their breakout star this season, but the majority, to be fair, were around last season as well and haven't really stepped up from their performances then, so I've gone with the Ukrainian attacking midfielder, pulling up the most senior minutes of his career so far this season. 25 games featured across all competitions is a good turnout for an inexperienced 20-year-old, and he has shown some impressive displays within the first team. The only issue then? Minutes. 748 minutes from 2,250 minutes available from those 25 games is a bit on the light side, and although he has been quite impressive, he hasn't blown anyone out the water really, and his output from a numbers perspective has been non-existent with no goals or assists in those minutes. I'd like to see more of him to consider giving a higher grading, but for now, it's in the D category for Yegor. Brighton, Simon Adingra, B. Picking a breakout star for Brighton came with a lot of contenders. Bart Verbruggen, Carlos Baliba and Julio Enciso, just to name a few, but eventually in my eyes there was one clear winner, and that was Simon Adingra, stepping up big time in his first season. The Brighton first team with 34 appearances in all competitions, scoring 7 and setting up 3 for his teammates. A return of 10 direct goal involvements for 34 games for a young lad playing in the country for the first time is a fantastic return, and just illustrates yet another example of Brighton doing absolute wonders within the transfer market. Signed for less than £7 million last season, a quick loan spell set him up to come into a rather changed team this season, and Adingra has been a vital part of that. One of the star players this season, and his name hot on the lips of many who have seen his performances. It probably won't be long until Brighton make a £50 million profit on the boy. So prediction time. Where do you think his next move will be to? Make sure to leave your prediction in the comments. Burnley, Wilson, Odobert, C. I was tempted to pick James Trafford in goal, but I think Trafford was actually quite a major signing for Burnley, and he was signed with pretty high expectations, and considering he has recently not been featuring as much, perhaps he hasn't broke out as much as we all would have thought he might have done. So instead, it is right to the other end of the pitch with 19-year-old Wilson Odobert. A healthy amount of appearances within the first team with 25 games played in the Premier League, scoring 3 and assisting 3, which is actually a pretty impressive turnaround for a player within this struggling Burnley side this season, particularly when that play is, again, only 19 years of age, and again playing in a struggling team. Fast, tricky, and clearly with some end product, I think we could be hearing the name of Odobert a lot more in the seasons to come. Chelsea, Cole Palmer, A. Possibly young player of the season and almost certainly the breakout player of the season. Never mind just of Chelsea. No one could have seen the meteoric rise of Cole Palmer at Chelsea this season. In fact, most people questioned the signing, as it was a lot of money for a player in a position that Chelsea already had an abundance of. And if you look at my earlier videos this season, I was certainly one of those people. Is this the worst transfer departure that Pep Guardiola has ever overseen? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because for me, off the top of my head, it has to be, doesn't it? Forgetting selling a local lad to traditionally one of your rivals for the title, Cole Palmer's performances have just been simply exceptional. The lad has scored in all 5 competitions that he has featured in this season, and he has got at least 2 assists in each of the 3 competitions where he has featured more than once. With 25 goals and 13 assists from 42 games across all competitions, and currently sitting joint first of the top goal scorers list in the Premier League with Erling Haaland, Cole Palmer easily earns his A grading, and in fact probably deserves a grading all on his own. Crystal Palace, Adam Wharton, B. The only player within this list to have only joined their team at the midway point of the season. There was no way I couldn't include Adam Wharton here. He signed for around £20 million in January, which, fair enough, is a rather high sum of money to Crystal Palace, but he makes it in here for outperforming what anyone could have expected from him. A young player making the step up to the Premier League midway through a rather up and down season for Palace, you would have been forgiven for expecting him to take his time to bed into the squad, but no, straight into the team and playing nearly all of the minutes available to him in that time. Wharton has been a real impressive addition to the team. To have stood out in performances against Manchester City and Liverpool in only his first few games in the top division is outrageous. If a player is a standout when playing against the midfielders of those 2 squads, you know he's the real deal. Based on the small sample that we have had of Wharton so far, you wouldn't be surprised if he were to move on to one of the top Premier League teams in the near future. Everton, Jarrad Branthwaite, A. Going into this season, I had a very good feeling about Jarrad Branthwaite. A solid season out on loan in Holland last season, coming back to his parent club, who had suffered defensive pitfalls for a couple of years now. It was set up for Branthwaite to come in and feel like a brand new signing, which is exactly what he has done. Signed for £1 million a few years ago, but appearing in the first team for the first time this season, he'd probably easily go for about £50 million now. A colossal at the back and good with the ball at his feet, breaking into the Everton team and breaking into the England setup must be an absolute dream come true for the boy, and he absolutely deserves it. Playing nearly every game for his club this season and even grabbing a couple of goals along the way, Branthwaite has such a bright future ahead of him, and if he keeps this up, you could really see him moulding into a John Stones type in the years to come. Fulham, Rodrigo Muniz, B. This could be a bit of recency bias considering the barnstorming month of March that Rodrigo Muniz experienced, but with the second most goal contributions in this list and awarded with a Premier League Player of the Month award, there is no way Muniz is not Fulham's breakout star of the season. 8 goals and a cheeky assist in 1,382 minutes of play in the league gives him a ratio of 1 goal contribution for every 153 minutes of Premier League action, which is a good bloody return for a 22-year-old striker of a mid-table team. Hopefully for Muniz, this is not just going to be a purple patch of form, and hopefully he can keep this up consistently to become a regular Premier League striker. And talking of regular, I put out tier lists, topic discussions, best 11s, and so much more every single week. So if you want regular content just like this, get clicking that subscribe button. Liverpool Jarrell Quansah. Liverpool is a tough one to pick for breakout star. There are a number of players who in any other team would definitely be their breakout, without even mentioning the plethora of academy players who have stepped up when needed during an injury-plagued season. You have Bobby Clark, who has featured on a number of occasions, and of course Conor Bradley, who has been absolutely exceptional at right back when deputising for Trent Alexander-Arnold this season. And where there, I have opted for the big lad at the centre of defence, Jarrell Quansah. It seems to have Matip's season-ending injury. Quansah has jumped ahead of him and Joe Gomez, who has featured more in the full-back roles as third-choice centre-back. To do that in a title-pushing defence, having to partner probably the best centre-back of the past few years and not looking out of place is a magnificent achievement. Other than that unfortunate mistake in the match against United, Quansah has looked so calm and collected, whether it be on the ball or off the ball. He's playing with a maturity far beyond his years and definitely earns his spot in the top ranking. But let me know, was Quansah the correct choice here, or should it have been Bradley? Luton Tedamengi C, joining for an undisclosed fee in the summer. Most people probably hadn't heard the name Tedamengi before the season, and those who had probably didn't expect to see him playing nearly every game for Luton in their maiden Premier League season. An absolute beast at the back who has shown a lot of promise in a tough season for Luton. He must be having a good time of it from a personal perspective, considering the recent links to the new Bundesliga champions Bayer Leverkusen. Based on their recent transfer activity and where those players are now, you would trust that they know a player when they see one. And it seems Tedamengi is one of those players. A good first season in the Premier League and gaining plenty of experience. It would be a surprise if he didn't find a move away to a bigger club if Luton were to go down this season. Manchester City, Oscar Bob C. The man with two first names, Oscar Bob, looks to be a real talent, and yet another from the youth setup of Manchester City. Silky, tidy dribbler, quick movement, comfortable passing. He truly is a product of this City system, and I'm sure he is going to either go on to be a main player for this team or, similar to Palmer, get sold on for a whole heap of cash. The lad has bags of potential, and with 2 goals and 2 assists so far this season, he has shown that he has the ability to be decisive in the final third of the pitch. The only issue of Bob in terms of this list is the lack of minutes. 810 minutes in all competitions and only 286 in the league just isn't enough to be moving him up any higher in this list, but his ability does at least get him in the C grading for me. Manchester United, Kobbie Mainoo A, moving our attention to the red side of Manchester, and another one from the academy. It just had to be Kobbie Mainoo, didn't it? Alejandro Garnacho deserves a special mention for being one of the standout performances in the United squad, but I'd say he broke out properly last season. So this time around, we are looking at the new boy in the first team squad. Despite yet another rollercoaster of a season for Manchester United, Kobbie Mainoo has been a revelation, and his emergence has probably been the best things to come from their season so far. That is, unless they win the FA Cup, of course. The assuredness that he shows in the centre of the pitch as a very recently turned 19-year-old, happy birthday, Kobbie, is a pretty remarkable thing, and just in time for the Euros, if Gareth has the sense to include him. Let me know if he's making it into your Euros England squad. He'll be remembered for years to come just for that goal against Liverpool, but hopefully for Kobbie, this is just the start of what is going to be a very impressive career. Newcastle United, Lewis Miley C, arriving here with the youngest player on the list now, and a player who is very highly regarded in the Northeast. 17-year-old Lewis Miley is getting a lot of Newcastle fans very excited for his future. The lad hasn't long left school, but he's managed to feature for the first team of the richest club in the world on 26 separate occasions so far this season, and if he continues this rise, he'll be a regular starter before he leaves his teens. With 1 goal and 4 assists in those matches, the box-to-box midfielder has shown an impressive goal contribution output in the matches that he has featured in, and with a very modern tactical sense of the game, Miley has the potential to hit the very top. Of course, it is still early doors. There is a long way to go, and first port of call for him is just getting more regular game time. He has featured a decent amount, but I want to see more from him before he can climb any higher than a C. Nottingham Forest, Murillo B. Nottingham Forest didn't have to break the bank for Murillo, but he also wasn't penny, so there was some expectation there that Murillo would impact the first team. Impact it this much though? I don't think they believe that would happen within his first season at the club. 28 appearances in the league, and having played most of the minutes available, Murillo has been a very important part of a squad fighting to stay in the league despite financial fair play, and they'll tell you referees being against them. Aggressive in the tackle and eager to break the play, Murillo is a unit at the back and a hard defender for opposing teams to come up against. His team struggles do, of course, let him down, which has to be considered when weighing up this grading, but there is no doubting that he has really broken to the team in a big way since his signing, and I expect there is more to come yet. Sheffield United Andre Brooks D. I spoke about Andre Brooks in an earlier video this season, looking at the best young players at each club, and I am glad to see that since then he has managed to feature on a number of occasions for his local club with 18 appearances across all competitions for the first team. A lot is thought of with Andre Brooks, and I expect that next season, with the likely possibility of their relegation, Brooks is going to feature a lot more for Sheffield United within the Championship, which is something that I will be very intrigued to see. A versatile player who likes to run with the ball and progress the team forward. He has an exciting young player, and it will be good to see more of him. It is a breakout for him, and he'll surely only grow from here, but with only 826 minutes so far and playing within a unfortunately dire team this season, I can't be looking any higher than D for Andre Brooks at this moment in time. Spurs Destiny Udogie A, one of the easiest gradings on this list. How much more can be said about Udogie than has been said already? The lad has been so mightily impressive this season. His first season within the Spurs first team following his time in Udinese last year, and arguably Tottenham's best season for years. Udogie is on top of the world. A vital member of the Ange system at Spurs, whether it be his bombing up and down the wing, his playing inside to link up the play, or his monstrous physical presence, Udogie seems to tick all of the boxes. Registering 2 goals and 3 assists in the league so far is a very decent return for a left back, and forcing his way into the Italian national team right before the Euros is absolutely warranted. A fantastic player who has been one of the best left backs in the league this year, earns his spot in the top ranking rather handily for me. Do you agree? You know how to let me know. West Ham Divim Mbamba D, second to last in the list, is a bit of a damp squib unfortunately, which isn't any disrespect to the player, but West Ham simply have not had a player really break out this season. Obviously the likes of James Ward-Prowse and Mohamed Kudus have been brilliant new signings for the Hammers, but they cost a lot of money each, and so I wouldn't really consider them breakout, more just playing better than expected, perhaps, maybe not. So I've had to go for Divim Mbamba. Pretty much the only young player to get some game time in the senior squad this year, but with only 269 minutes across all competitions in the first team, we have simply not seen enough of him to realistically judge his performance any higher than the default placement at D really. Still very young and plenty of time left in his career. I'm sure we'll begin to see more of him in the coming seasons. Wolves João Gomez B, we come to the end of the list and we finish with a player who I really like. Wolves were in dire straits coming into the season, losing half of their first team players and their manager whilst fighting financial fair play restraints convinced many people that relegation would be a very real possibility for this team. But fast forward to April and it's players like João Gomez who have seriously stepped up in the absence of the likes of Ruben Neves, Matheus Nunes and João Moutinho. Featuring on 29 separate occasions in the league for the Midland side and being probably the most impressive midfielder in the squad, Gomez loves to break up the play and move the ball up the pitch to start the attacking phase of play, and he does it with absolute aplomb. Also managing to break into the Brazilian national team, the lad is on his way to the very top. If he keeps up the performances and keeps up the consistency, we could be witnessing the start of a real good career for the Brazilian midfielder. And there we have it guys for another video and another tier list. If you liked what you watched, if you had any opinions on my opinions, why don't you let me know down in those comments, and remember to please like and subscribe, and check me out across all of my other socials. I'm on YouTube where you're watching this video, Twitch where I do all of my streaming, X, Instagram and TikTok all under the same handle, Bolts96. But the O's are 0. Thank you very much for watching and I'll see you on the next one.